Hi guys, my name is Mauricio Lastres, and today I'm going to make a quick little video talking about a issue that has been going on for, I guess, I don't know how long of a while, but about the Audi R8 being broken. And it all starts, of course, on the iRacing forum, and people start going off about how the car's broken, and I've read through the forum and I've seen two different things that's broken about it. Apparently it's the suspension on the car, where apparently it can't handle going over curbs very well, and supposedly the car's supposed to be really good over curbs. That's arguable. And then the second one is that apparently that iRacing made an update, and then they took away all the rear downforce out of the car, and that the car feels so light and all that. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to get to the bottom of this and see what the hell's going on. So I already did some practice laps earlier, and you can see my times also. I already have this set up. I didn't just make it just now or whatever. All I was doing was tuning for the conditions. Right now it's cloudy and the track temperature is at 37, so that's a little bit cooler than what I made the setup for. So I had to free it up, and you can see 21.4, 21.2, 21.0, 20.8. Then I made a couple changes to free the car up, so then that got me down to the 6s. Then I freed it up some more, and then I ran a 3, a 6, a 6, and then a 3 again. So I think the car's a little bit better. Now I'm going to go out and run again with this exact same setup while I'm yapping. So probably not going to be as fast, but we'll see. Regardless, let's talk about the car. So the easiest thing to talk about for sure is going to be the claim about the car having lost all its downforce. And that's an easy one. And that's an easy one to talk about because this week or last week, whatever, last weekend, I went ahead and went through the trouble of making an aero map for the car. And the results were interesting. Now, I didn't have an aero map for the car before, but luckily one of my subscribers, he did go through the trouble of making an aero map, and he shared it with me. And I won't say who it was, but I appreciate it. And then that gave us the information that we needed to be able to compare. So the results are that the rear of the car seems to have, well, in general, I'm just going to say that the aero balance has shifted forward. That means that, yes, downforce has come off of the back. The aero balance has moved forward about 2% on the car. 2%. That's not nothing. That is definitely something, and it will make a change to the balance of the car, obviously, and you're going to feel it. But, of course, you know, it's extreme to say that the car has no downforce when it obviously does. It's a 2% shift forward. It's about a 6% decrease in rear downforce. And that comes out to about 60 newtons of downforce taken away out of the back of the car. So, not bad, not too bad, I think. And it's also within the realm of what is normal. What is normal for a car when they make changes and everything. Now, in real life, I don't really think that they go around changing the aero on these cars. But let's say like NASCAR or whatever, yeah, I mean, they make sometimes at the racetrack changes that are in the order of 50, 100, 150 newtons. You know, they'll take about an inch, half an inch, a quarter inch, 5/8 of an inch off of a spoiler at a race meeting. They've done that in the past, and I'm sure that they'll do it again in the future. But those are big changes to be making, and then, you know, last minute. So what's the big deal, though? The problem is that you guys aren't changing your setups. And then, you know, oh, now the car's nice and everything. Well, you shifted the balance forward by 2%. If the car was balanced before, it's not now. It's off by 2%. So you need to bring it back. how do you get the aero balance back? Well, a lot of people have already figured that out, but I noticed that the Audis now more typically are running very little rake. And yes, in part that's because apparently they also BOP'd the engine and took a little bit of power off of it. So then people are trying to run low drag to try to make up on straightaway speed, which is fine. Well, no, not really, but I think it's kind of silly. But one thing that does do, lowering the rake, is bring the center of pressure back. So if you lower the rake by, let's say, 5 millimeters, then you might be able to get almost about halfway of that, and then make a couple other setup changes, and then you're back to the same original aero balance that you had before. Which also brings up another point about weather, because I mentioned how this setup was made for hot weather, like really hot. And people's complaints about how on hot weather the car drives like it's on ice. Again, guys, you got to change your setup. Now, it is a problem that the weather is a little bit too, the effects of the weather are a little bit too much, about like easily twice as much as it should be. And that's going to get sorted out, I'm sure. Some point in 2018 that's going to be fixed, and it'll be a problem of the past. But what won't be a problem of the past is people's lack of adaptability, which I think is about the biggest thing that separates iRacers from racers in real life, drivers and anything else. I mean, anybody that's in racing is adaptability. iRacers crave and love, or sim racers crave and love, repeatability, regularity, constants. They love everything to be exactly the same, perfectly symmetric. Everything has to be perfect, otherwise the whole world is out of whack. And that's one thing that I think is a big deal that separates the two worlds, is adaptability. And I guess real life racers are a little bit more used to the changing of conditions, changing of track conditions, changing of rules, everything is always changing in real life, more so than on iRacing. And you just have to get on with it. Otherwise you're going to get beat by the people that adapt. So that's really what it's all about in racing. It's adapting. Adapting to the conditions, adapting to the rules, adapting to anything that's new, which is always the case. Definitely adapting is incredibly important. And if you're not adapting, then you're falling behind. Got a 1-off X there. Obviously when I'm talking to you guys, it's kind of hard to pay attention. So anyway, back to the weather. So what you have to do is you have to adjust the car. The adjustments are bigger than what you would have to do in real life, okay, because the effect is a little bit bigger, but whatever. Regardless, in the future, when they fix it, that problem's not going to go away. You're still going to have to adjust the car, but you're just going to have to half the amount that you adjust it by. But as the track gets hotter, or the track gets looser, or the track has less rubber or is greener, you have to tighten it up. That's why it feels on ice. And as the track gains rubber, or the track gets cooler, you have to free it up. Otherwise, it's going to start plowing, shoving the nose, and you're not going to go anywhere. And that's part of the reason also why when people start a race, let's say it's like a really long endurance race, and then the track rubbers up, but people don't actually pick up any speed. It's because the track has rubbered up to a point where now you're understeering so bad that you're actually not gaining any speed now. The track is faster, it's just that your setup is limiting you. So those are the issues. Okay, what are we doing here? Not the best place to let me go. But I would have probably appreciated he'd let me go at the end of this, the S's, but whatever. Alright, so fact number 1, and we have empirical measurements. All the downforce of the back of the Audi is not gone. It's about 60 newtons worth of downforce is gone. That's 6% reduction in, well, let's call it 5 to 8, because there's a small margin of error in these measurements. So 5 to 8% reduction in rear downforce, And that's shifted the balance forward by 1.5 to 2.5%. Call it even. And oh shit. Anyway, so that's the deal with the downforce. That means that you have to either run a little bit more wing, or you have to, which people don't want to do because they've already lost horsepower or whatever. I like to run wing. Right now I'm running a C wing, and I've run as much as D wing, and I haven't run a single lap on this car with B wing. The thing about running high downforce setups is that obviously you have to make it work in the corner, so it kind of requires a different attitude. You have to really attack the corners a little bit more, and you have to definitely make use of all the downforce if you're going to have it, because obviously you're not going to be be able to make up the speed on the straightaways. Definitely in qualifying, that's the way to go, because of the fact that you have to make the setup as quick as possible, and it doesn't matter if it's on the straights or on the turns, as long as it's faster than the other one, you don't have to worry about being overtaken or anything. So high downforce can work really well in qualifying when you're in an underpowered car. Sometimes racing in an underpowered car is a little bit tough though, because of the fact that it might be hard to defend positions. It also may be hard to overtake. So then you put it all on qualifying, make sure you start out front, and then see if you can hold people off. That's where your skills in blocking and everything are going to come in. Anyway. Okay, so let's talk about the other issue, which was the curbs. I guess one thing that gives me grief on iRacing is when people go and have an issue, whether it be with the weather or the tires, or because they did something to a car, or it doesn't like the curbs or whatever. And then they go on the forum and then they plead with iRacing to change it because they swear it's broken, because they must know everything. And the fact is that you're comparing apples to oranges. Then they'll post a video of a real car, a GT3 car, maybe, hopefully at the same racetrack, and compare and say, see, my car doesn't do that. Why is that car so stable? As if the cars, as if the cars were the same, but they're not the same, because they're not carrying the same setup, are they? It's completely ridiculous. Might as well be a completely different type of race car. The setups are a huge deal, guys, especially when it comes to stability and control. And the first thing that you should do when you have any one of these handling issues is, address the setup of the car and whether or not that's what's causing the problem. And if you don't know, well, I mean, just assume that it is then, because the thing is that setting up these cars in real life is not easy, and that the race cars are designed for gentlemen racers, yes, but they're not designed for amateurs to set up. These gentlemen drivers are not putting the setup on the car themselves. They still have professional engineers, in some cases factory professional engineers like Audi Customer Racing. They bring their guys in support, and these are professional engineers that are still handling the car. They're doing the maintenance, and more importantly, they're doing the race engineering. So it's not going to be an easy thing to set up the car. And in some cases, some of these cars are trickier than others. In every case, damping is never easy to set up. And when it comes to curbs and setting up a car for curbs, the suspension, there's two critical things that are important there. Three, but one of them you can't control at all. So the ones that you can't control are the springs and the dampers. And if your car is having trouble with curbs, there are remedies for that. And if you're not using those remedies, then whose fault is that? at the end of the day, you have to make compromises. I worked not too hard, just decently hard to get this set up under the car where I feel comfortable hitting the curbs, and I still have more room to go. So basically, if and I'm doing this run right now, if I have trouble with the curbs and the car starts, you know, getting upset on me or whatever, then I still have more room to go with my damping. I have more room to go with my damping to be able to adjust it so it can be a little bit even more compliant with the curbs. Definitely, you see that I have a high downforce setup because I can go flat through the last corner there. Now I've run several laps, and now the nose is starting to push a little bit, especially in turn 1. So not happy about that. The other thing that's important to know about curbs is that just like on your bicycle, there's a right way and a wrong way to hit curbs. And kind of just like in your bicycle, you're going to have to learn with experience. You're going to have to learn with experience what the right way and the wrong way is. But definitely don't hammer curbs, especially in really weird angles of attack or at certain speeds, or definitely straddling, right center punching the curb, especially if it's taller than the underside of the car, and then expect to like be able to just stay wide open. You'd be surprised how much a little crack of a throttle or a steering adjustment would go to saving the car. So I would say error number 1 is assuming that your setup is right. In actuality, you should probably assume that your setup is wrong. And then after that, then maybe blame the driving and say, well, maybe you don't know how to drive, which is a possibility. Learn how to hit curbs right, and then also learn how to set up the car properly. And yeah, no, I mean, I know it's annoying, but that's part of that's how it is in real life. It's harder in real life, so you know, this is a simulator, and if that's too much trouble, then that's where Gran Turismo and Project Cars and Assetto Corsa are, you know, that's what they're for. So you can just stick whatever setup in it and just go and have fun. Yeah, this gets a little bit more challenging. So, but I just want everybody to know that the tools are there, the tools work. I have managed to get this Audi to hit the curbs in a manner which I'm happy with, and it's compliant enough for me. And if I felt, or if I do something where I feel like now it's not, and now I feel a little bit scared hitting the curbs, in that case, then there's still more adjustment left in it for me. So there's more room. I'm not on any extreme. I definitely haven't min-maxed anything here. I'm pretty central in my my damper adjustments right now, or in some of them about halfway or so. And the ones that I would change, I am halfway on. So still plenty of adjustment left in the car. So this is not a tutorial or anything like that. I didn't want to talk about how I got the dampers this way. I just wanted to talk that the tools are there, and if you apply the normal real life stuff and don't do anything weird or alienate to the race setup, you can get a race setup that handles curbs just fine in the Audi. And that no matter what you have heard, the Audi is not idiot proof, and it's not good over curbs naturally, and it can be good over curbs, but it can also be really bad over curbs, and it all depends on the team and the engineers and the simulations that they've done and all that. So That's what matters. Now, that brings up the last issue then. Have I gone for the speed? Because clearly I'm not P1 in this session. I wasn't before, and I'm not now, because I definitely haven't run any faster laps. BOP, I mean, that's an issue. How to fix the BOP? Well, the BOP is definitely off. There is nothing I can do that will be able to make this Audi as fast as a BMW or Mercedes at this track. I did drive the BMW here already, and yeah, that's pretty effortlessly, without any effort and without doing any setup changes or whatever. It was already faster than this Audi that I've put a little bit more time into, and much more comfortable. It just has way more downforce, and you can get away with running max downforce. I mean, I'm running full rake, and you know, I think everybody is. That's maximum downforce on that car, and then quite a handful of wing. And you're running a max downforce setup where, you know, with this Audi I'm having to run medium downforce, and still I could pile on more downforce, but that would just make me slower down the straightaways. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. You give it more power, people are still going to run low downforce anyway. So I definitely don't know how to fix it, but it's a BOP issue. You got to play with the numbers there. I'm all for just making small tweaks to power and weight. Power and weight, that's what you got to do. But don't make tweaks to the aero, I think, and definitely stick to whatever it's supposed to be. One thing I don't know is whether or not the Audi's rear downforce is supposed to be whatever. I mean, they don't publish absolute results. Those are extremely hard to find. But what I do know is that for the most part, the Audi's aero seems to behave like the real cars, as in, you know, each click of wing seems to, I don't know, I forgot what it was, but like, or every 2 clicks of wing is about a 1.5 to 2% shift in aero balance. That seemed to be within 0.5% of what the results were on iRacing from real life. So that's pretty good. And then the rake, like always, that affects the aero balance and the front and everything. It seems to affect the rear downforce less, which seems to also match the real life car, where it seems that as you increase rake, some cars gain a little bit of rear downforce while gaining a lot of front downforce. It seems like the Audi is in a case where it gains almost no rear downforce, or in fact loses a tiny bit of rear downforce. See, there's an Audi with the dampers all messed up on it, and that's why he's spinning. So it seems like the Audi, as you increase rake, it barely gains any rear downforce at all, and it seems like that's the case in real life too, which is why as you increase rake, you have to increase the wing angle. It's recommended by Audi for the real life thing, and the testing validated that that I did as well. All right, guys. Well, I haven't been able to do any fast laps, but at least we're running in the 20s here while I'm talking to you. It's kind of hard to talk and drive, but I can say that normally I've done 2 other practices with the Audi, all of them in pretty nice hot weather, and at least I'm usually always the fastest. Every time I've been the fastest Audi, but definitely not the fastest car, and usually about a second off of these Europeans. So a lot of driving their Mercedeses, but you know, some work to do. But at the end of the day, you know, just because the car has a bad BOP doesn't mean that you can put a silly setup under it and assume that somehow that's gonna get you there. In real life, you know, you just have to sleep in the bed that you were given, and that's it. The McLaren F1 team certainly doesn't take their rear wing off just because they're down 15K on the Mercedes. No, they still have to do the best that they can. So in real life, you know, you buy the car, you have to race it. You can't just be switching between brands for races. I mean, I know that's an option, so I mean, I guess just do that. Just switch brands, but don't bitch, and then don't The worst thing that you can do is bitch to iRacing, where if they ever did listen to you, actually they're taking the whole sim away from reality because of the fact that making these changes would actually be a bad because the car's actually fine. There's nothing wrong with the Audi, and car's fine. So thank you guys. I'm going to continue hopefully soon making some more videos on the topics of Motec and everything. I've been lagging a little bit on that because this winter time is always very, very busy for racers, and unfortunately nothing was able to come through for Thunder Hill for me, and that was a bit of a bummer. We'll be hopeful for next year, but either way, still working on other things throughout the winter, and still there's some more opportunities to be had maybe for some racing in 2018. But we'll see. So I got to work on that stuff, and got to. But I'm gonna be back on the Motec stuff very soon. I appreciate all you guys, all the subscribers. The first thing that we're gonna tackle though is building, the basic workbook and going through those steps. As soon as we hit the 1,400 subscriber mark, then soon after I'm going to release the basic workbook once we have it done, because I want to go through it together. But of course, if you want to be lazy and you don't actually want to build it yourself, that's fine. Just wait around and share it, and then share the videos. And more subscribers we get, then I'll release it, so and everybody will have it. And then at that point, we'll all learn together how to use it. So it's not going to be a requirement for you to learn how to make it yourself. I'm going to give it to you once we get to 1,400. Okay, guys? So until next time, I'll see you on the racetrack.